some problems on EMF equation. All right. So in the first half, let us solve problems on EMF equation, and in the second half, let's discuss about construction of transformers. All right. So consider the first problem. So these problems are based on EMF equation. All right. The first problem is about a single phase transformer. Okay, you can copy the problem statement. It says a single phase 20 kVA transformer, a single phase 20 kVA transformer has 1000 primary turns, that is N1, and 2500 secondary turns. The net cross-sectional area of the core is 100 square centimeters. The cross-sectional area of the core is 100 square centimeters. What is the primary winding? Okay, sorry. When the primary winding is connected to 500 volts 50 hertz supply, when the primary winding is connected to 500 volts 50 hertz supply, determine the maximum value of flux density second one, voltage induced in the secondary winding. Third one, primary and secondary full load currents. Primary and secondary full load currents. So this is about the problem statement. 20 kVA having N1 is equal to 1000, N2 is equal to 2500. And area of transformer core is given, that is 100 square centimeters. V1 is given, the voltage, supply voltage is 500 volts. Frequency is also given, which is 50 hertz. So you are supposed to find maximum flux density. So maximum flux density, okay. So flux density is nothing but flux per unit area cross section, right? So 5 divided by U. Now over here, the area of cross section is 100 square centimeters. So BM is nothing but pi m divided by A. Okay. Now we do not know A. We know that is 100 square centimeters. We do not know the value of pi m. However, pi m value can be found from the transformer EMF equation. Okay. So EMF equation of the transformer with respect to primary can be written as E1 is equal to 4.44 F pi m N1. Okay. And also, see, we are considering an ideal transformer, okay, throughout our discussion. For an ideal transformer, okay, ideal transformer, V1 is equal to E1. That is, supply voltage V1 is equal to primary induced EMF E1. Okay. So, and which is equal to 500 volts. It is given in the problem statement. So, if you modify this equation, you can get the value of phi m. So, phi m is nothing but E1 divided by 4.44 F N1, right? E1 divided by 4.44 F into N1. Okay. So that is equal to 500 volts divided by 4.44 into F is 50 hertz into primary number of turns that's given as 1000. Okay. So substitute these values and try finding out the value of maximum flux density. Okay. So maximum flux density, you will get it something like 2. The maximum flux density, you will get it as 2.25 milliwebers. 2.252 milliwebers. Okay, so that's your flux density. Once the flux density is known, you can find, once the flux value is known, maximum value of flux, you can find the maximum flux density. So flux density per area. So it is 2.252 milli, right? That is 10 to the power minus 3 divided by area. Area is 100 square centimeters. So SI unit is, SI unit for area is square meters. So you need to convert it to square meters. So square meters becomes 10 to the power minus 2 the whole square. So it is 10 to the power minus 4. Okay, minus 4. That's because 1 centimeter is equal to 10 to the power minus 2 meters. And when you take out the square, it becomes 10 to the power minus 2 the whole square. So 10 to the power minus 4 you will get. So when you substitute, you will get the flux density value as 0.2252. 0.2252 Tesla or Weber per meter square. Flux unit is Webers and area is meter square. So Weber per meter square, or simply you can say Tesla. Okay. So that's the first part of the problem. Second part is about the induced EMF in the secondary winding. So E2 you are supposed to find. So you can find E2 by making use of transformation ratio. Okay, we have E2 by E1 is equal to N2 by N1, correct? And I don't want to take current ratio because I know what is N2 and what is N1, and I also know what is E1. So I just need E2. So I'll just take this as my transformation ratio. So that implies your secondary voltage E2 is equal to N2 by N1 into E1, which is equal to N2, secondary number of turns are 2500 divided by N1, 1000 turns into E1. E1 is 500 volts. Okay. So that will give you secondary induced EMF E2. So E2 you will get it as 1250 volts. Okay. So as you can clearly observe that E2 is greater than E1. So that means to say it is a step up transformer. Okay. The turns, N2 by N1, is basically greater than 1. So this we have discussed previously, right? Whenever the ratio is greater than 1, we will get the secondary induced EMF greater than the primary voltage. So it is basically a step up transformer. Fine. So that's about E2. Now let's find out I1 and I2. Okay. Third part, I1 and I2. So all you need to do is finding out the I1 value or I2 value, because I1 and I2 can also be related to the transformation ratio K, correct? So let's try finding out I1. Okay. So to find I1, you can make use of the transformer rating, right? Transformer rating. Now, transformer rating is given as 20 kV. So S is equal to 20 kV. Okay. And equation for kVA is voltage into current, right? So let's consider it as V2 into I2, the rating of the transformer. Okay, you can write as a comment output VA rating is nothing but output VA rating. So output VA rating is 20 kV, which is V2 into I2. So 20 into 10 to the power 3 is equal to V2. In place of V2, I can substitute E2 into I2. Okay. That's because for an ideal transformer, V2 is equal to E2. Okay. Or you can find out I2. Okay. So I2 is nothing but 20 into 10 to the power 3 divided by E2, or 20 into 10 to the power 3 divided by E2. E2 is 1250 volts. So I2, you will get it as, when you substitute, 16 amperes. Are you getting it? 16 amperes you are supposed to get I2 as. Okay. Once I2 is known, you can make use of the transformation ratio, that is N2 by N1 is equal to I1 by I2, right? Therefore, I1 is equal to N2 by N1 into I2, just the cross multiplication. So I1 is equal to N2 is 2500 divided by N1, which is 1000, into I2, which you have found just now, 16. Okay. So substitute these values in your calculator. Okay. So you are supposed to get it as 40 amperes. Okay. Are you getting these answers? Can anyone quickly confirm?
Yes, sir.
All right, fine. So
Yes, sir.
no, you're not getting. Okay.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Getting.
Just cross check. Okay. So that's about the third part of the question. Okay. So I1 and I2. All right. So that's about problem number 1. Okay. Let's see some other problems. Okay. Next up, you can take second problem. Okay. All right. It's a different data. You can copy the question. Find the number of turns on the primary and secondary side. Find the number of turns on the primary and secondary side of 440 bar 230 volt 50 hertz single phase transformer comma, if the net area of cross section, if the net area of cross section is 30 square centimeters. If the net area of cross section is 30 square centimeters and the maximum value of flux density and the maximum value of flux density is 1 Weber per square meter square. 1 Weber per square meters. Okay. Or Tesla. 1 Tesla. So you need to determine N1 and N2. So that's your objective. Okay. So the voltage rating is given. Let's solve this. Voltage rating, that is 440 is to 230 volt, right? So it is 440 volt is to 230 volt. That means to say the first voltage is always the primary voltage, E1, followed by the secondary voltage. Okay. That's because this is how the transformer representation is done, right? So this is your RMS value of primary induced EMF, and this is your RMS value of secondary induced EMF. So first voltage is always taken as E1 and the second voltage is taken as E2. So you know the values of E1 and E2, that is 440 volt and 230 volt respectively. So having known E1 and E2 values, you can find basically the number of turns on the primary as well as secondary. Okay. So you can start off by writing down the EMF equation onto the primary. That is E1 is equal to 4.44 F Ym into En1. Okay. So we know everything, right? E1 is known, 440 volt. Frequency is 50, and flux density we are supposed to find out because we have the information regarding the area and the flux density. So you will be able to find phi m. So we have flux density as flux per unit area, phi m divided by A. That implies flux phi m is equal to flux density into area. So flux density is Weber per meter square into basically meter square. So meter square gets cancelled and you will be left with the flux value. So Bm is 1 into area, that is 30 square centimeters. Let me convert it to square meters. So it is 30 into 10 to the power minus 4. Right. So that's your flux value. Okay. You can now substitute the phi m value to get number of turns on the primary. That is E1 divided by 4.44 into F into phi m, or E1 is 440 divided by 4.44 into 50 into 30 into 10 to the power minus 4. So that will give you N1. So did anyone calculate N1? $660.67 turns you will get, right? 660.67 turns. So probably you can round it off to the nearest number, 661 turns. So that's your primary number of turns. Once you are done with primary number of turns, you can find the secondary number of turns. So secondary number of turns you can find using the transformation ratio. we have E2 by E1 is equal to N2 by N1, and you need N2, right? So N2 is equal to N1 into E2 by E1, or N1 you have taken as 661 into E2, 230, divided by E1, 440. So that will give you N2 value. So how much you will get N2? Roughly 345 turns, around 345 turns. So N2 is 345 turns. So that's how we solve these types of problems. All right. Okay, let's take the third type. Okay. Copy the question. The primary winding of a 25 kVA transformer has 200 turns and is connected to 230 volt 50 hertz supply, and is connected to 230 volt 50 hertz supply. Full stop. The secondary turns are 50. The secondary turns are 50. Calculate the following. Calculate the following. First one, no load secondary induced EMF no load secondary induced EMF. Second one, full load primary and secondary currents that's nothing but I1 and I2. Full load primary and secondary current. Third one, the flux density in the core. The flux density in the core, if the cross section of the core is 60 square centimeter, if the cross section of the core is 60 square centimeters, okay. The very important problem. Multiple times it has appeared in university examination. All right, so this is the data. So you have been given with a 25 kVA having primary turns as 200 volts, 200 turns, connected to 230 volt 50 hertz AC. Okay, and the secondary turns are also given as 50. And you are supposed to find no load secondary induced EMF. What do you mean by no load secondary induced EMF? E2. Okay, that is in the absence of load. Anyhow, we don't consider the winding resistance, and we consider the transformer to be ideal. So the terminal voltage given under loaded condition, we will assume it as the induced EMF E2. Okay. So nevertheless, no load secondary induced EMF, let's say E2, and I1, I2 and the flux density Bm you are supposed to find out. Okay. So let's see what do we have here. So KVA rating is given, and okay, primary and secondary voltage is also given. Okay, so what you can do basically, you can directly find E2. So solution. You can directly find E2. So with respect to secondary, you can write the EMF equation as E2 is equal to 4.44 into F into phi m into N2, where N2 are the number of turns of the secondary winding. Okay. So we know F 50 Hertz, we know N2 which is 50, and we do not know the value of phi m. So let's calculate phi m. So flux is nothing but okay, flux is also not given, right? Area is given. Okay. Flux is not given.
So directly we can use E2,
Yeah,
but
you will. Yeah, correct. Since flux is not given, I was in the impression that flux is given. Yeah, flux is not given. Hence, you can make use of this one, the transformation relation. E2 by E1 is equal to N2 by N1. Correct? This is what you were referring to. No? So E2 is equal to N2 by N1 into E1. N2 is 50 divided by N1 is 200. So it's a step down transformer into E1. E1 is 230 volts. How much you will get? The secondary voltage as?
57.5.
Yeah, 57.5. So you will get secondary voltage as 57.5. Okay. So that's your first part. And second part, it is somewhat similar to your problem number 2, I guess. You are being given with the KVA rating. So KVA rating, right, is V2 into I2. That is the output KVA rating we are considering, which is equal to 25 into 10 to the power 3. So you can also say that it is E2 into I2 because we are considering ideal transformer. So E2 into I2 is equal to 25 into 10 to the power 3. Okay. So you can find out I2 from here. So that is 25 into 10 raised 3 divided by E2, and E2 is 57.5. So we'll get I2 is equal to, how much you'll get I2? .8 ampere. Is it correct? I2 is 438. Sorry, 434. I'm sorry. It is 434.8. One of you can confirm the answer.
Yes, sir.
So once I2 is known, you can find out I1. So you can use I1 by I2 is equal to N2 by N1. That implies I1 is equal to N2 by N1 into I2. So I1 is equal to 50 by 200 into I2, and that is equal to less than, because 5 by 200, right, is 1/4. One not 8.7. It is 108.7 amperes. So that's the value of I1. So you have found I1 as well as I2. Okay. Now you can find flux density. So third part, flux density. So to find the flux density, probably you can use the EMF equation, third part. So E1 is equal to 4.44 F phi n into N1, or phi n is equal to E1 divided by 4.44 F into N1, 230 divided by okay. So maximum value of flux, you will get it as 5.18 milliwebers. Once flux value is known, you can find out Bm. Therefore, Bm becomes flux per area into area, that is 5.18 milli divided by area, 60 into 10 to the power minus 4. I'm converting it to square meters. Hence, you will get the flux density value as 0.863 Tesla. So this is the flux density value, 0.863 Tesla. Okay. So that's your problem number 3. Okay. Let us see if I can find any other problem. Okay, fine. That's all. So that's it from the problems related to EMF equation. Okay. A small theory portion that we consider, that is construction. Construction of transformers, which is important for short notes. You can get a question based on this construction of transformers. Okay. Now, see, classification of transformers. So transformers may be classified on the basis of voltage level, such as step-up transformer, step-down transformer, or 1:1 transformer. Transformers can also be classified on the basis of the usage in measurement field, something like current transformers and potential transformers. And in transmission and distribution sector, the transformers may be classified as power transformers and distribution transformers. So you have a wide range of transformers. Okay, and there are very different types of transformers available. However, in the introductory course, our classification is majorly based on construction. Okay. So on the basis of construction, the transformers, it could be single-phase transformer or three-phase transformer, may be classified into two types: core type of transformer, and shell type of transformer. shell type of transformer. Okay. Core type of transformers and shell type of transformers. Okay. So let us look at the construction of core type as well as shell type of transformer. Okay. So first let us consider core type of transformer. So in case of core type of transformer, okay, I'm just talking about the general idea of core type of construction. In case of core type of transformer, in a practical transformer, we find that not all the primary winding is kept on first limb and the secondary winding is kept on second limb. Okay. So you don't find 100% primary winding kept in the first limb and the 100% secondary winding kept in second limb, because in the introductory class I have told that if you place all primary winding here and all the secondary winding here, what happens is that the leakage reactance increases. Leakage reactance increases. Okay. And leakage reactance is due to the air gap, so which is bad. So with the increase in leakage reactance, what happens is that efficiency decreases. So that is the reason in case of practical transformer, it's a standard practice to keep 50% of primary winding. Okay, in short, let me take N1, and 50% of secondary winding is placed in either of, in these two limbs. Okay, so here you will keep 50% primary followed by 50% secondary winding. Similarly, on the second limb, 50% primary is kept and 50% secondary is kept. So this is the basic, idea of placement of winding in case of a practical transformer. And the reason is to reduce leakage reactance. By reducing leakage reactance, you can increase the efficiency. Okay, and also you can achieve good coupling between primary winding and secondary winding. So that is the reason. All right. Fine. So that being the basic idea, we can proceed for the construction. Okay. So whether it is shell type transformer or core type transformer, the major two parts of transformer are windings and the core. So these are the major two parts of the transformer. Okay, and let us deal with these two parts individually. Core construction. So for a core type transformer, okay, normally we draw this square type of core. Square type of core. Okay. Here in the center, you will have a window. Okay. Now, when I draw this, the picture becomes somewhat, deceiving in nature. So when we look at this picture, we feel as though you have a square-shaped core. But in reality, you will not have a solid square-shaped core. Instead, you will have something like you will have something like a combination of U-shaped core and I-shaped core. Okay. So basically, your transformer core is consisting of two separate parts: U-shaped part and I-shaped part. I-shaped part. when you place this I-shaped part on top of U-shaped part, what you get is a kind of rectangular shape. Rectangular shape, right? When you place this, this becomes the other side of the, top side of the rectangle, and you get a square-shaped diagram. Okay. For the sake of simplicity, we used to draw this type of diagram while drawing equivalent circuit, which is fine. But when you deal with the construction, you must be aware of the exact construction. Okay. Now, a core type of transformer is made up of several U-shaped laminations. Say, for example, U-shaped laminations. Okay. So you have U-shaped laminations, and you also be having I-shaped laminations. Okay. I have told in the yesterday's class, why do we go for laminations? We don't go for a solid piece of metal. Instead, we go for layered metal. That's because using a layered metal or using laminations, you can reduce the eddy current losses. So that's the reason we go for laminations. Okay. So first, several sheets of U-shaped laminations are made. Okay. Once these laminations are made, let's say, once the U-shaped laminations are made, then the windings are kept inside. Okay, let me use a different color. So windings, okay, let's say cylindrical shaped windings. The windings are kept. Windings are kept. Okay. Once the windings are placed, the transformer is sealed by placing I-shaped laminations. I-shaped laminations. So this is how the physical transformer construction is carried out. First create U-shaped laminations, and then place the windings, and then close it off using I-shaped laminations. I-shaped laminations. Okay. Now, these windings, okay, whatever I claim that red ones are windings, these windings will have the primary winding as well as the secondary winding, because 50% of primary is placed in one lane and the remaining 50% is placed on the secondary lane. So if you look at the top view of the winding, you will be able to see, you will be getting to see this type of winding layer. Okay. So, okay, let's say this is your square section of the core. Okay. So closer to the transformer core, you have the insulation. Okay. So let's say this red color is low voltage insulation, because you need to protect the transformer core against you can say the flow of current, right? So a layer of insulation is provided near to the transformer core, and the low voltage winding is always placed very next to the core. That's because when the voltage rating of the winding is less, you would be needing less insulation. On the other hand, if the winding voltage rating of the winding is high, you need more insulation. So in order to reduce the size, normally we keep low voltage winding very next to the core. Okay, that's because low voltage winding is less dangerous, so you can protect the transformer core. Okay. So after a layer of LV insulation, LV winding is kept. Okay. This is your LV winding. So this is your LV winding. Followed by LV winding, you will have the HV insulation. Followed by LV winding, you will have HV insulation. So this blue color, let's use it to represent the HV insulation, high voltage insulation. Okay. And next to high voltage insulation, you will have your high voltage winding. High voltage winding. Okay. This is your HV winding. So this is how the windings are arranged. Okay. So for the sake of safety, LV winding is always kept closer to the transformer core. So this is your transformer core, the center part. This is your core. Okay. So core is surrounded by the LV insulation, followed by LV winding. And then HV insulation is placed, followed by HV winding. So basically you have the alternate layers of LV and HV winding. You will have only one layer, of course. Okay. So this is how the winding is made in case of core type transformer. Okay. If we look at the front cut sectional view, you will get something of this kind. So let us try to draw the cut sectional view. Okay. Front cut sectional view. So very simple. This is your transformer core, correct? So nearer to transformer core, what do you have? The first element is your LV insulation. So place LV insulation here. Okay. Followed by LV insulation, you have LV winding. So mark your LV winding. Okay. LV winding. Followed by LV winding, you have HV insulation. Okay. So that's your HV insulation, and followed by HV winding. HV winding. So this is how the diagram is drawn. You don't have to label the sketch because you can do this. Okay, so person can directly refer to this section and he will be able to understand what exactly you are trying to say. Okay, so this is on the one limb. Okay, the same thing you need to do it for the other limb also. Quickly let us draw. LV insulation. And then LV winding. And then comes the HV insulation. followed by the HV wine. HV wine. So this is your transformer construction, core type transformer, and then you can just label the few parts which you haven't labeled before. This is your horizontal section is your yoke, and the vertical section is your limb. Okay, you can say put together. This is laminated transformer core. Okay. So this is the construction of core type transformer. Okay. So probably you can draw this figure, and this nomenclature you can use to describe the winding. Okay, you can feel free to choose any color you want. All right. So that's about core type of transformer. Now, one important observation is that, as you can see, your windings are kept out, right? Your core basically getting encircled by the windings. So in this type of transformer, the visually one can identify a core type of transformer in the sense, in case of core type of transformer, windings encircle the core. This is the observation. Windings encircle the core, and these core type of transformers are meant for high power transmission. High power transmission. Normally they will have very high voltage ratings. All right. So this is about core type of transformer. Construction of core type of transformer. Next, let us look at the shell type of transformer. Okay. The basic shell type, SHELL shell type. So in case of shell type of transformer, you will have two windows. In core type, you have had only one window. In case of shell type, you will have two windows. First window, and this is the second window. Okay. So that is the first difference. In core type, one window. In shell type, two windows. And in core type, the flux value around the transformer core is phi. So in core type, the flux value at any given part of the transformer core remains phi. On the other hand, in shell type, the flux at the central limb is not phi, sorry, is only phi. That's because flux in the other part is basically pi by 2. So this is pi by 2 and this is pi by 2. So at the central limb, what is happening is these two fluxes are getting added up. Hence, at the central limb, the total flux value becomes pi. On the other hand, in core type, in any part of the core, the flux value remained phi. Okay. Here it is phi by 2 and phi by 2 in the other parts of the core. Only at the central part, it becomes phi by 2 plus phi by 2. That is the second difference. Okay. First difference, two windows. Second difference, only at the central part, it is phi, and in the remaining sections of the core, the flux value is phi by 2. Okay. And you can also say that the third difference, as it has three limbs and your core type has only two limbs. First limb, second limb, and the third limb. Okay. Now, where to keep the windings? In case of shell type of transformer, since you have the openings inside the transformer, so basically the windings are kept inside the transformer. So let's say this is your primary winding L1, and you will have the secondary winding placed in the central limb itself. Okay. So this is your N2, and let's say this is I2. So both primary and secondary windings are placed on the central limb. Okay. So this is the basic schema of shell type of transformer. Okay. If you look at the detailed construction, is consisting of a layered arrangement of windings. That's the reason it is also called as sandwiched type of winding. So here you will have layered or sandwiched winding. Sandwiched winding. Okay. Now, in case of shell type of transformer, in order to create the two windows, probably you will have to go for E-shaped laminations, combination of E-shaped laminations with an I-shaped lamination. Okay. So this is one way of constructing the shell type of transformer. Okay. At the bottom, you can go for E-shaped laminations, and at the top, you can basically place I-shaped lamination. So when you close the I-shaped lamination, you will get a shell type of transformer. Okay. Fine. Now the winding arrangement, winding arrangement. So alternate layers of LV and HV winding is kept. Okay. So you will have the first LV insulation, okay, followed by LV winding. Followed by LV winding. Then you will have HV insulation. Okay, so I'll erase this. Okay. The blue one, let's consider it as HV insulation, followed by HV winding, so on and so forth. Okay, this is your HV winding. And then you will have once again LV. Then LV winding. HV insulation. So that's the reason it is called as sandwich winding. You can see that HV and LV winding is getting sandwiched, right? Sandwiched. So that's the reason it is also called as sandwiched type of winding. Okay. Then you have HV winding. And this just goes on. Okay. So okay, so that's the construction of shell type of transformer. Okay. Alternate layers of HV and LV winding is kept, hence it is also called as sandwiched winding. The major observation is that you can clearly observe that in case of shell type of transformer, the transformer core is basically encircling the windings, right? So you can say the windings are encircled by the transformer core. So this is the observation. So, by physically observing the transformer, one can say that if the if the core is encircling the winding, then it is a shell type of transformer. So core is kept out and windings are kept in. So that's about the construction of shell type and core type transformer. Okay, I'll just take 1 minute to differentiate the core and shell type. In core type, you have one window. In shell type, you have two windows. In core type, you will have two limbs. In shell type, you will have first limb, second limb, and third limb. In core type, the flux distribution in the transformer core is 5, whereas in shell type, flux distribution in the central limb is 5. In the other part of the transformer core, it is 5/2. And the fourth difference is in case of core type, the windings are encircling the core. In case of shell type, core is encircling the winding. That's the fourth difference. Fifth difference is shell type of transformers are normally used for low type of low voltage applications, and shell types are normally used for high voltage applications. Okay, so that's about the transformer core construction. Okay, so tomorrow let's study about the efficiency, which is the last part of transformer. Okay. So if you have doubts, you can stay back. If you don't have doubts, you can quit the classroom. Thank you.